Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 60 and wiser step into their spotlight, yes, and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. For over 45 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yep. Showing the world that 60, 70, and beyond, we are not slowing down. We're just getting started. And today's We Can Do It Women expert interview features my dear friend, LaWanna Bradford. LaWanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Debra. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am so impressed. I mean, I have known you for, I'm trying to think how long it's been. It's been a while.
I think we're going on 6 years, believe it or not.
Yes, yes. You know, that's true. We met down in Atlanta at that Business of Speaking. And so I'm just saying this because it came out of my head. And that is that we have I picked you out. I just said, I already researched you. I picked you out and I said, I got to speak with this woman. And so, of course, I planted myself right beside you at lunch. And you're telling me your story, and we'll get into your story because it's so impressive. Well, actually, we're going to hold my comment until we get to that part of the story. So let me give
Okay.
my viewing audience, if you don't happen to know who LaWanna is, boy, are you in for a treat. LaWanna is a global strategy leader. And that is no joke. She didn't just get on a cruise ship and talk about going to a different country. No, she did not. She's been all over the world. And she has been awarded, catch this, the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. This, my friends, is a very magnificent award and so prestigious. And I honor LaWanna. As a matter of fact, let me just launch right into this. LaWanna has volunteered, and I'm sure it's larger than this now because when I was doing the research, some of this was several years old, over 40,000 hours. How many is it now, LaWanna? Probably 50,000. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot. After a
It's
while, you just stop counting and just keep giving.
Well, you've done that your whole life. Now I want to remind our audience that Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote Blink and other wonderful books, I recommend his books highly. He talked about the 10,000 hour rule. Do you remember that? Yeah, he
Yeah, for
asserted that
expertise.
that's how we know you're an expert. If you've put in 10,000 hours, we can at least, listen to what you say as an expert on the topic. And so LaWanna, I'm just saying, guys, gals, 4 times that much. And that's what she's given away. So she's also worked in her business. And what is her business? Well, she has come to her business with a master's in public administration. She's a serial entrepreneur. Boy, there's not a business this gal hasn't started. She's a global leader, and she has a penchant called Making a Difference. And she is now COO of her own firm, of course, the Bradford Group. It's a commercial and investment mortgage brokerage house and a business management firm. She guides federal and private industries, profit and not-for-profit, small businesses and entrepreneurs in order that they remain relevant in ever-changing markets, because sometimes, especially entrepreneurial world, it's kind of lonely out here and you might not be completely up on the latest and greatest. And LaWanna takes your hand and says, hey, here's where we're going here, right? So it is so amazing. So talk to us a little bit, LaWanna, about your mortgage business in particular, because that's going to tie in and close the loop of how we met and what I said to you when we met over lunch.
So I am, believe it or not, we will be celebrating next month 19 years in the industry.
Totally amazing. As a woman, guys, I mean, okay, as a woman in a financial field, all right, go ahead.
And I actually came into the industry when I left corporate. My brother started the company, and I came in to help him with some compliance matters, got bitten by the mortgage bug, and I thought, hey, how can I be a part of it? So we had a discussion. I invested in the business, and I felt like we had the Midas touch, Deborah. I mean, it was booming. Life was good until 2007, 2008 came, and the rug was jerked from under us. And I didn't know how we were even going to survive. Banks were closing to the left and right of us. Mortgage partners were closing. And I had to do what I tell people never to do. I robbed for my future to take care of our 13 employees. Hindsight, I would have done it in a very different way. And I still had to end up letting them go. Husband, financial crisis in marriage doesn't always go well. He left, I stayed, and here we are. So
Mm,
it's been a wonderful experience, and I think surviving not only an economic crisis, unlike anything we've ever experienced in our lifetime,
completely.
and then to survive the pandemic,
Yeah.
and now to be navigating these waters of uncertainty, goes back to the conversation you had with me where you challenged me, because sometimes we don't want to let people know everything that we've done.
Yeah.
And you said, LaWanna, why aren't you sharing that piece of your story? Why aren't you letting people know that you survived some of the toughest climates? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the other piece that, you just haven't said right here is that your brother who founded the business chooses to walk
Yeah, he
from
he
the business.
left.
And so I can certainly understand a reticence to not like, because, you got family in the business and it's complicated. But you know what? I just sat there at the table and I was slack-jawed. I just had to go, oh, freaking Lord help her. She is in the middle of a transition like we had never seen, especially in the mortgage business. Now, literally, I was just on the phone with a friend of mine and a client a half hour ago. And I was relaying the fact that I was buying my former partner out of her half of the home in 2007, 8, whatever it was. And I had one banker that was holding the mortgage in on Monday. On Tuesday, I had a different one. On Thursday, I had a different one. And on Friday, they had sold it again and I had a different one. And she wasn't in the financial industry. And she was kind of like, Deb, this is your business. Like, are you having problems here? Like, I know my credit score is off the charts, kissing the stars, but we're in the middle of a major, major upheaval in the financial industry where, LaWanda, as you're one to say, I mean, we're about flow, right? Especially women. We ought to get this as women better than men because we understand flow, right? We understand cycles. But I'm telling you, when money, which is money and blood and water, we can all make analogies with all of these because you're so smart in finances. And if it's flowing, we're living. And if it's stopped up, there's going to be stagnation. There's going to be serious hurt and maybe death. And so that's what so impressed me about you kind of saying, oh yeah, well, by the by, yeah, I just then had the whole company to myself. And I didn't even know at the point that your husband said, no, no, I'm going to say I don't now. Oh, I said I do. And now I'm going to say I don't. And now you're holding the business without your bro. And I just was like, LaWanna, if you aren't shouting this from the rooftops, I will. And so we both began to do it. So what you're looking at, women, is as a woman that understands that change is inevitable, and she has managed to use her faith and her, great parenting and so forth, and a real solid foundation on which LaWanna stands. I mean, she's a very educated person and has listened. She has listened to a lot of people, and she's brought that information and wisdom into herself and put it through that LaWanna formula. And then she helps businesses and entrepreneurs get themselves situated. Now, you are writing a book called R3, which is patterned after already your personal GPS for success in order to make transformation frameworks more accessible. Talk to us about R3.
Now, the R3 system actually was born out of my multiple adversities in life and in business. And I had to step back and wonder, well, what is making me so resilient? And I realized I was applying a formula, a strategic paradigm, if you will. So we know when you think about traditional strategy, and I'm simplifying this is where I am, this is where I want to go. And then hopefully I'll throw something to the wall, it'll stick and I'll get there. Well, this goes a little bit deeper than that. And it's really the secret sauce, because if that simple formula that I just described were accurate, everyone would be doing it. Everyone
Yes.
would have this, a great success, but they don't. They struggle. And this is where this is a call for critical thinking. So refocus, reframe, and reconnect. Refocus, most people would think, I know what that is, LaWanna, it's mindset. No, actually, it's not. It deals with understanding where you sit in your marketplace. What is your industry doing? What are the shifts? How can you position yourself as the best viable option? What are your partnership relationships? Understanding the whole cycle of work. How are shifts occurring within your marketplace and within your customer facing relationships? When you understand that, that gives you clarity of mind. It gives you a clear line of sight as to, okay, now I understand these waters that I'm in. Am I really committed to this? Is this really where I want to go? And if so, then you just validated your vision. If
Yeah.
not, you may have to adjust that vision. The
Well,
next part,
without the clear vision, where are we? So yeah, that's
you're spinning, you're busy, right? You're moving, but not moving anywhere.
oh, LaWanna, this reminds me of riding a stationary bike. My dad would never do it because he says, like, I'm getting nowhere. But of course, we have a lot of dadisms. Just for your viewing, our viewers, LaWanna's and my dad were both in their 90s. Well, my dad was only 90, and they, in the last year and a half of their life, kind of went this almost on this parallel thing, like in the hospital, everybody's I mean, your dad had sepsis and pneumonia, wasn't it? I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
death-defying odds. They both pulled out and dug deep and stuck with us because they did, and because God wasn't really ready for them yet, and we kind of needed a little bit more of them. So I had deepened my friendship with LaWanna. We would be texting each other in the middle of the night, "How's Dad?" And so this is I mean, it's kind of a funny normism. This act of busy versus productive is really an easy trap, I think, for entrepreneurs to get into, because, we look around, and my desk looks a little sloppy right now because there's a lot on there. I'm flying out tomorrow. You know how that goes. When you're flying out, then all the kind of things happen before that. But LaWanna digs deep in the interviewing and so forth of the top brass, so the owner, the top management staff and people, and gives a lot of insights and programming about the R3. So you also promote the CAR principle. I love what are they called? Darn it. CAR, C-A-R. It's
Anagrams.
yeah. And so you promote that, which is, tell us about the CAR principle.
The CAR principle starts first with clear. It's how do you build momentum?
There you go.
So first having clarity goes back to the R3, then having your authority, and then relationships.
Right.
So I can have clarity, but that authority comes from me getting the reps in, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, as you said, with the hours. Now my lived experience shows my expertise. You also have your clients and partners giving testimonials for you. You have that endorsement. So once you have that authority, then it's about strengthening those relationships, because we can go alone, but we can only go so far by ourselves. Right. So if you're really looking for impact, influence, and ultimately the level of income that you want, it takes a village. And that's what the CAR principle says. So it's like you own and dominate your lane in a way that's celebrated by others, but you also celebrate others in your collective journey, because you are traveling, so journeying, if you will, together.
Yes, yes. And that accountability right in that middle is so valuable, because as entrepreneurs, and I'll speak for myself as type A cubed, it's like squirrel, shiny red truck, right? And and you hold people's feet to the fire in a way that's very very, very successful. As a matter of fact, I was so jelly. You were last year at the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs, and you're interviewed. I'm tuning in one hour after another, and LaWanna's on with this radio show, that radio show, and she's saying, I have the R3 program, and these people are like, Oh my gosh, I hope your business picked up. I was so impressed. How did you get that gig? And what impact, first of all, talk to us about you and the Chiefs. And then how did you find that whole experience? Because that was something that I don't know as many of us are going to have, if any of us.
Yeah, it was amazing. And how I got it, it goes back to, remember I said that are relationships. Having the relationship, and a group of speakers went on this tour. And I was asked if I wanted to be a part of it. Of course, it's an investment, both of my time and money, but I thought, why not? And because it was the Chiefs, my dad's team, I had to be there.
Exactly, exactly.
And it was amazing. It was actually overwhelming when I walked in and you saw over 210 media outlets there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I navigate this? And I had to quickly freeze because I realized I'm having a meltdown right now. Fear
Mm,
crept in because it was the unknown.
ah,
And I had to say, well, what I do know is what I know. Now let me speak to someone who's been here before, understand how do I navigate this? How do I set up my interviews with the right people? Because that's a lot,
oh,
right? I
that's
want to
the
make
big
sure
piece of it right there.
each interview was value added to me. And then I knew how I was going to pitch this. And it was all about showing the value to the athlete. And then also tapping into prior athletic experience that I had. People don't know that I owned a licensed sporting apparel store, that I sponsored a major athlete at Caesar's Palace, Andrew Maynard. He's a welterweight champion, an Olympic gold medalist who fought against Tommy Hearns.
Oh my
People also don't
gosh.
know that I used to work for the Olympics. So I used all that to navigate all this masculine energy that was in the room and getting them to ooh and ah
Yeah.
over LaWanna.
Wow, wow. Yes. These relationships are so critical. And obviously, you're getting invite after invite because you're performing on the invites that you have accepted. And I remember a little bit about the Olympics, and I read a little bit about it, but talk to us about your role in the Olympics because, as I remember, it was very fun.
That was the best experience I've had in my entire professional and entrepreneurial experience because I'm on the world stage
Yeah.
and I was able to bring my financial expertise to the table. So I was over multi-million dollars of operating cost, but also being able to touch the athletes and to just be really a part of that experience. And why it was so surreal for me is I'm a former athlete myself, and I always had aspirations to be at the Olympics. Well, look how God worked it. Okay, I wasn't out there running, but I was running the money.
Always follow the money. I've always said that, gals, always follow the money. And LaWanna was leading the money charge, right? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What was your sport running?
Oh, I did,
Did all
believe it or
sports.
not, as short as I am, I did hurdles, but I did the 440 relay. I'm kind of back in the days, like before it was meters, but it was a 440 relay was my race.
Amazing. Amazing. Um, yeah, as short as you are, the hurdles does surprise me a little bit. God love you. Now, Lawanna's life has been built on discipline. Her life has been built on, as you've heard, recovery from setback or pivoting after setback. And while I'm in the recovery word, and not only did you have the mortgage crisis happening, your brother walks out of the business, your husband divorces you, and then all of a sudden, what's like the last comeuppance that you
Happened.
faced?
Well, actually, there were two. And this is all happening within a 6 year time period. So
Yes.
as I'm trying, actually three, as I'm trying to figure things out, money was getting lower and lower, almost non-existent. And I had to call mom and dad because I didn't know if I was going to end up losing my home. I had lost so much. And my dad, that was the most humbling period of my life. He and my mom actually got on a plane, flew to Atlanta, and they said, we need to see everything. And I said, well, I told you I don't have anything. He said, no, you want our help. I need to see what's coming in, what's going out. And he said very clearly, he said, we will help you. We will keep that roof over your head. your lights will stay on, gas will be in your car, you'll have food in your belly. But if you're going to keep doing this business thing, that's on you. I'm like, okay, cool. My stress is gone. I can handle it.
Yeah.
Until I get a knock on the door, Deborah, Chase Bank sues me. I'm like, okay, I don't have any money for an attorney. So I call mom and dad. My dad, he said, "Well, I'm sorry. I told you, not the business." And I reached out to my friend, and I think you may even know Rick Spann, and asked him, what do I do? And he had gone to law school, but was not, did not go, choose to pursue that career. So he wasn't barred. But he he said, I think I can guide you on how to represent yourself in court and win. No guarantees, but I think I can. And this told me the importance of having a coach. Again, you hear me say often, been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Got the t-shirt.
And I followed him, and I did represent myself in court, and I won.
Okay,
So
you guys, I just, that was my drop moment. Chase Bank sues LaWanna Bradford. And LaWanna schools herself on how to represent herself in court, not against her neighbor, against Chase Bank. With, as we all imagine, a bevy of legal departments. And she wins. Oh my gosh. I when I read that, I was just like, say it isn't so. Represented herself, first of all, to win against Chase and to represent yourself. Okay, so my mind was blown kind of wide open. This lesson that your dad shared with you and taught, if you will, was so key. And it really, galvanized probably for him, it was like, this is where, LaWanna, of course, no parent wants to, have their kid go through things that are harrowing. And yet this is kind of a proving ground of sorts, right? She's going to dig deep, and she's going to do, I think your dad and mom had every confidence you'd dig deep and you'd do it. And yet it's a whole different thing for you to be digging deep and doing it, no matter that some of your living expenses were covered. You have a couple of quotes that you talk about, and one is from your dad, and boy, I began to call him dad right away, Harlan. If you don't know the story of Harlan Bradford, he was a Buffalo soldier, a decorated Army veteran, and he just passed this past December. Look him up, because that's LaWanna's dad. But she says, and I quote from Harlan, or you, my father taught me that preparation isn't optional. It's everything. Everything. He used to say, think before you leap. Plan your work. Work your plan. And always be ready for the unexpected. Wow. What rich wisdom, huh?
It was. And, looking back, I think, yeah, there was, he wanted to make sure that there was a safety net, again, for my survivalship, but he cut the umbilical cord.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm so glad he did, because had he said, okay, we'll help you with that, I don't know if I'd ever would have developed the grit and the resilience in really tapping into, what can I do? What can I make happen for myself?
Yeah.
And then if I can add this, I said there was one more thing that happened.
Yeah.
So after all of that, I'm thinking, okay, I feel like I'm stopping, but I'm moving. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I thought, wow, okay, God, what next? I never asked why, never. Yes. But I want to share this with you. I've never seen this program again. And I only cried one time. And it wasn't even a cry. It was like that lone little tear as I sat on my bed, and I turned on the TV, and it was a televangelist on. And again, I've never seen this person. I believe that was just God showing up in his angelic form. And this person said, there's someone out there watching right now that has been recently diagnosed with cancer. And he said, I don't want you to lose faith. I just want you to know that even though the doctor said there's no hope, because what I was diagnosed with has no cure and it's rare. and it's rare to be in the African American community, and it's rare for women to have.
Oh
So
my.
no cure. And he said, but just remember that man's medicine hasn't caught up with God's miracle. That right there, I was like, I'm golden.
Yeah.
God, you've got this. I'm going to
It's
keep
just
living. I'm just going to keep living.
like you weren't on a party line with God. You 1-to-1 right
Yeah,
there. That was a download.
it was. It was amazing. And I have searched and searched, and I cannot find any record that this program has ever even existed.
Whew, okay. Every hair on my body is standing up. Yeah. Uh, this cancer diagnosis that was so bleak. What did you start feeling poorly? Because sometimes people don't even feel poorly. They're just like going in for their annual and something comes up in the blood.
No, this is why I tell people really know your body, how it feels, how it looks.
Yeah.
I had gone to bed, everything looked normal. I woke up the next morning and I had about a silver dollar size white spot on my arm. It was like just the pigment just went away. And I thought, how did this happen overnight? I go to the doctor and I went to my primary and she said, oh, you're just going through the change and it's probably eczema. I said, I've never had a skin disorder in my life and
Like,
I don't think that looks like eczema. And she said, that's what it is. And she called me a hypochondriac. So she gave me some cream. I was rubbing the cream on and nothing was changing. And 2 weeks later, I said, I don't think this is eczema. So I go to my dermatologist. I didn't have, well, now it's a dermatologist. I never had a dermatologist before. So went there
yeah.
and they took one look and they said, oh, that's not eczema. It's not psoriasis. I said, what is it? She's like, I don't want to be certain until we do a biopsy, but it's an autoimmune disorder of sorts or it's lymphoma. And I said, can we just call it eczema? And I keep applying.
Oh,
I'm like, I don't like either of those
I know.
diagnoses. So they did the biopsy. I go back a week later. I went by myself because I literally do not think I'm going to be diagnosed with anything. I go in and they said, are you here alone? I'm like, well, yeah. And they said, well, come on back. And it was the doctor and a radiologist and the nurse. And right then I said, all I heard was wah, 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 wah. I heard life expectancy, wah, 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 and that was it.
Oh my God.
And that was 10 years ago. I'm still here.
So what was the treatment?
They did my Madison and Mason, those are my niece and nephew. They laughed. They gave me light therapy, and it's literally like being put in a microwave. You totally nude, and they nuke you because the lymphoma that I have, it's T cell lymphoma, and actually the whole word is hypopigmented mycosis fungoides T cell
Say that one
lymphoma.
more time. Hyper.
Hypopigmented mycosis fungoides T cell lymphoma. A long word for we don't know what this is, but
Yeah.
but it attacks the skin, your largest organ.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And so that's what they were trying to do is arrest the development of it and preventing it from going into the lymph nodes.
Oh my.
And this is what was amazing to me. About 5 years ago, I was seeing my oncologist, and she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but because you can't diet and everything else, that doesn't do anything with this. And she said, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, keep your stress at an even keel. And she said, your numbers are stable. I said, that's good. She said, where are you, by the way? I said, well, I spend a lot of time in Arizona. And she asked what part. And when I told her, she said, it's resistant to altitude. So the altitude was helping to suppress it. And I'm thinking, who knew as I'm going back and forth, taking care of dad, that God's taking care of me? Is
Uh,
that amazing?
nothing short of it. Nothing short of amazing. Wow. So then, how long after the initial diagnosis until they said you're clean?
I'm not,
Mm, mm. Interesting.
according to medicine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it still shows up. I go every 4 months. But people who don't know me have no idea.
Yeah.
But I feel great. My energy's high. The only evidence, physical evidence that I have is it took the color out of my hair. People thought, oh, you were always coloring your hair. No, it stripped the color out of my hair. And I intentionally chose not to color it to remind myself who's holding me in his hands.
Right now.
So
Right
it's
now.
a statement.
Oh dear. Um, well, that just it buoys my soul. And your strong faith has always been your rock, and your dad's rock, your mom's rock. Um, and I want to talk a little bit with you about faith, especially at a time like now,
Sure.
a time with terrific upheaval. Um, and from my perspective, a terrific amount of cruelty, unnecessary cruelty, and a splintering of some of us from some of the other of us. And sometimes I've seen people post something. It's kind of like they make a post and then they like, go into, I don't know where they go, but they don't make any more posts. It's like, I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and God will handle it. Well, God was still around during Auschwitz, and God chose to self-limit, else we would be marionettes. And God gave us free agency. And I want you to talk about how you've interwoven your faith in God with your boots on the ground activism, because God, I was in summer camp and they said, God will take care of you and accept the will of God's life for you. And I was like, whatever, high school. And I was kind of not that bright. And I said, somebody tell me what God's will for my life is, right? And I just thought to myself, you know what? I thought I wanted to go into finance then, and then I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to kind of fight with my faith because the whole money, filthy lucre. And I just thought, you know what? I've never seen it. I've never seen reported God's hand coming out and writing a check. Now we have to take the action. So tell us how you weave your faith with your action.
I think the first thing is, and I'm coming from a Christian perspective, but I believe that when Christ died and he said it is finished, he meant it. He said that we can do all things that he did and more.
And more.
I believe that. The word is we will do. He didn't say just sit and ask. Yeah, you ask and you keep asking, you knock and the door will be open. But it's action. Faith is an action word. It's not let me sit on the sidelines and just, hope the angel fairies appear. God wants to see our faith and our love for him by the walk we take. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you're going to always understand the outcome. Sometimes the outcome isn't what you prayed for.
Yes. A lot
You
of
know?
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this aspect of us being open to your point, that televangelist saying something and then you couldn't find the trace of it, right? I believe these things, and I know you do. I think the veil between here and the afterlife is gossamer thin. Like I continue to talk with all the people that have died in my circle of friends and family, and you know that like at some point you find yourself doing something, and you think that's interesting, right? And I like ask, all right, I have no idea what to do, and then all of a sudden I get a little foothold, and boy, I always take that because these are times where there's a whole lot of noise. And when we get some types of insights like that, some kind of, I call it like a mini awakening, I'm completely in favor of following it. And you go out on your daily walk and you have something called insights. There's another word to it.
Yeah. Strategic insights.
Strategic insights. Tell us about those. It's your
So strategic
hold on one
insights,
second. It's you guys, this is what she calls it. Praytation. Talk to us about it.
yeah. So
Oh,
it's metapration. So you just that's okay. But metapration, it came about because I love to go out and walk early in the day. And my brother would tease me. He said, you're like Adam walking with God in the cool of the morning. And I said, well, this is actually my meditation and my prayer time, meditation. But during that time, it allows me to get centered, to be quiet, to not be in a position of asking, but just really just celebrating the goodness around me. And in those moments, I would start to get these downloads, some of them very simple, some very complex. And I thought, wow, if these are shaping me, maybe I'll start sharing them. And you'll remember when initially these were like rants. I'm just going on and
Yeah.
on the whole course of my walk, but now I've shortened them, so they're manageable. Sometimes I'll go a little longer, but that's how they originated.
Well,
And can I share something with you? You were talking
please,
about how
right
you
now.
get, whether it's downloads or just the spiritual connection. And
Yeah.
I want to share this with people because this just happened to me this week, and it blew me away. Because of our faith, we know that we're eternal
Yes.
and that we're just in this physical body. And so I woke up that morning. I'm always thinking about Dad, but I woke up with him. He used to quote poetry. And one of the poems, one line of a poem was, who can see the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bend down their heads, you know the wind is passing by. I heard that so clearly, like he was right there. That's what I woke up to. And I thought, wow. I said, good morning, Dad. I go and I take my shower. I come get out of the shower. And I remembered a song called Like the Wind. It's a Swedish group called Eden Adal back in the 80s. And I thought, wow. I thought, I wonder, can I find this online? And I found it. Now, this is one of the lines is, like the wind blowing within me, keeping us together, though we're love is forever. Like the wind, love is eternal, touching me like the wind. And it says, together, though we're far apart, you'll always be in my heart. So those are the words of the song. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, Dad, I hear you. God knocks 3 times.
Yes.
So I get up, have my breakfast, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to get the mail yesterday. I go out to get the mail. One of the things my dad read every night before he went to bed was his daily bread.
Yes.
I have never ordered a daily bread. I have never received a daily bread in the mail, ever. I pull out the mail and I'm like, are you kidding me? Was the daily bread.
Oh my gosh.
And I just sat there and I thought, if I didn't believe there was a God, if I didn't believe that we are eternal beings, this solidifies it for me. I don't care about anyone else, but I know what I know, and no one can make me think anything else.
Oh, absolutely not. How rich is that? Yes, but the daily bread was a big staple in the Morrison house as well. I was reading it with my dad many times in the last year of his life, and I would have him, like some of the nurses would just like read the devotion and read the Bible thing, and I thought, well, as long as he's able to look up those scriptures, and so I would. He had good eyesight still and very good hearing, but I didn't want anything to be an impediment. So I put a couple of pillows up, and then I put his big, huge Bible on there. And I said, okay, Dad, here's the passage. And he would be looking through, he knew his Bible backwards and forwards, and he would get the thing and get the right book and chapter and verse. And then he began reading it. And then I would, as the visits waned and as he lost some acuity, I would put a paper and guide him down. And I was so grateful just to have, not just, I'm going to eliminate that word. I was grateful to have um, that insight, to give him that grounding, because the Bible was the center of his life. And when he would start to slip a little bit, when I was there, I would just say, and I'm sure everyone else did too, but I said, Dad, did we do the devotions yet? And we would just pop out the Bible and bam, it was just like, it's like he was plugged in now.
Yeah.
Right. And he came into a whole different sense of acuity. So anyway, that's an interesting analogy. Just the second I said it, I think to myself, we want to unplug from some of this media noise, because like today I had a mic problem. I had to unplug it, wait a little while, not just unplug it and plug it back in. Unplug it and wait a little while. And I prayed, then plug it back in. And our bodies, sometimes that's all we need is to unplug and get rid. Else we're going to meld into this, whatever, muddy blood or bloody mud. I don't know what it is, but it's not pleasant. And this is a time, LaWanna, when we want to maintain our strength, because I don't know how long this battle will be. And yet you're quoted, and I love this quote, and I'll quote you. When women step into their power unapologetically, they create ripples of transformation, not just change, transformation that touch everyone around them. So talk to us about how even the smallest acts of us are maybe seen and not seen, or we know who saw us, but we don't know the ripple effect, and your experiences in that kind of thing, because I know you have many.
I can just share with you a conversation I had last night. I was in a business meeting and I challenged the audience. I said, we're going through some very trying times in our nation and in the world. Why aren't small businesses having conversations around this? And everyone was quiet. And so this one lady, she raised her hand and she said, well, I was told not to mix business and politics. I said, we're not mixing business and politics. I'm talking about your quality of life and
Right.
well-being for you and your family and community. If that's politics to you, then that's what it is. And she said, well, if you're looking at it that way, she said, the only thing I know to do is just to help allay the fears that my grandchildren are having right now. And she said, I'm trying to help them to understand what we're facing. And I said, kudos to you. I said, because we need foot soldiers at every tier. And you are at the grassroots level, pouring into the next generation. And if you shift that mindset, that's where the ripples of change, that's where the massive transformation happens. It's changing. I believe when you change one life, you've changed the next generation, because the thinking is different, the behavior has shifted. So we all have our sphere of influence. My question is, what are you doing with it? And that could just be with your family. Right now, our families around the table talking about and trying to understand this new world. Or are you just hoping it'll just go away?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting approach. I have just in the past several weeks just come right out and said it, because there was a time I cared about it, but I don't care. I don't care who you voted for. What I'm really almost 100%, and I'm not sure of anything, but close to 100% sure of, no matter what your issue was, and typically we vote on one or two major issues, typically. So if in fact, and the biggest example is that, you don't believe in granting abortions, if that was your issue and you pulled the lever for Donald Trump, then you got what you wanted. And yet I don't believe that lever pull for, in this case, your position on abortion was a carte blanche to have Elon Musk come in, usurp power, et cetera. And so I think there is budding up now, and I'm promoting it, and I'm going to do a seminar next Wednesday night to talk about crush the overwhelm and take back our control, right? Because I think that, like, no matter who you voted for and what your primary issues were, we have cataclysmically been thrust into a whole different environment where there's, an intentional tsunami to overwhelm us. And so we're going to parse it out, and then we're going to have little pods, I think, of people that say, no, I believe in vaccines. No, I don't want, all these people deported like this. No, and I don't want, the cost of living to continue to go up, and I don't want Ukraine aid to be stopped. And I think these are going to make, I'm hoping that we get this stuff, continued to be organized, because I think that it's going to be curious. We're going to see what different bedfellows we may have in these different interests that we're now, voicing our concern and our opposition to, or our compliance with, and our wish for, the humane treatment of people, and not summarily, cutting jobs of people, especially, well, in as cruel a manner as they're doing, and especially when it is a national security risk. So I'm hoping that we develop these pods, and then we collectively within these pods of various topics, we're able to, what I think is find the commonality between us, because I think that's far outweighs these incremental differences. And I think that perhaps could be the bridge to get us through to a different and much more hopeful present and future.
No, I agree. And I think we can all stand in a seat of judgment, finger pointing, and basically we all want the same thing, and that's the ideal of a better life, whatever that may be for each person. If you want to shout make America great again, fine. I used to say my father bled red, white, and blue. I
Yes.
am a patriot through and through. There are certain things that I will stand for, fight for, die for. I love this country, but I don't like evil of any kind that has the risk to intentionally harm individuals.
Right.
I think there's things that we can do better, not just as a nation, but as a world. But it first starts with us. I think
Starts at
it's
home.
broken people create more broken systems.
Right.
So if we can deal with our fractured families, right? Because our families, the divorce rate, single parent homes, if we could fix that, then we can fix our communities, then we can fix our states. I don't believe the solution is top down.
Yes.
I believe it's bottom up.
Always, always.
Yeah,
Uh, what was Margaret Mead, right? When the people lead, the leaders follow. And
exactly.
all good. I mean, John Lewis, Rosa Parks. We're talking about the suffragette movement, and then decades later, Black women being able to vote. We're talking about the suffragette, but then Black women didn't get the right to vote for, you probably know it off the top of your head, like 20, 30 years. Is disgraceful. So
Yeah.
always it is a groundswell, and I see it happening. And so that's what I want us to focus in on, is the little wins, because otherwise the noise can cause us to shut down and feel like, this isn't going to happen. This is not doable. Everything is doable. You have a little quote, and I love it. You're talking about running the race apologetically. And when you do this consulting with business people, you actually instill in them, I think, the belief that they can do it. Talk to us about how you engender that belief in people that might be wavering a little bit.
I think in our lives, unfortunately, we hear more negative, more no's than yeses, more what you can't do or what you shouldn't do rather than what you can do. And so whether I'm talking to the C-suite
Yes.
or that small business owner, I'm focusing on, let's look at the genius that you have, the
Yes.
gifting, the skills, the talents. You were put here for this appointed time. You are pivotal in history. And if you can latch onto that and realize, and this goes back to the reframing, because MLK said that you're the architect of your life. You should draw your own blueprint. When we realize that we have that creative power and that no one competes in our lane but us, and you can really own that,
Yeah.
it's expansive. You show up big. You're willing to take up space. I don't have to worry about what someone else is doing to my left or right because there's plenty for everyone, right? So it's really I think it's tapping into a belief because for some reason, especially here in this country, we're the wealthiest nation, but we're a nation that has stopped believing a long, long time ago. And we are pointing, well, where are our leaders and what's this person doing and what are our Congress people doing? Well, what are you doing?
That's
What
right.
are you doing?
That's right. Yeah. And I think this is so critical, LaWanna, for us to internalize, because we can, like, if you and I were right here, we'd have our arms around each other, like, this is my sister, right? And so, like, if you have like one Black friend, right? And then, like, this has happened in my church camp at summer, like a Nigerian missionary kid would come over and we'd get our picture with him. And we're not racist. Here's my Black friend. I think it's incumbent upon us to understand that we're fighting systems where the isms are baked in for sometimes centuries. And
Yeah.
that takes a strong army to fight that. It takes a groundswell of people saying that person's life is just as valuable as my life. And so I want to open it to you to talk with us about your work. You have a very, very wonderfully populated and engaged Celebrate You Facebook page. Talk to us though about anything that people still have misconceptions about vis-a-vis racism, because it's still prevalent, and I think it's going to have to I think women are going to continue to be the key players to dismantle this system. How can we best help?
And racism, for those that don't understand, it's a construct.
Exactly.
It's a construct for whoever happens to be in the seat of majority or the seat of financial power. That's all it is. And so I develop a system to benefit me if I'm the majority, if I control the purse strings.
Yes.
Anyone would do it. It's easy to
Yeah.
say, well, if we were the majority, if we, meaning African Americans, we wouldn't do the same. Would we? Or would
Yeah.
we not? Typically, he who has the gold, as my dad says, makes the rules. It just is. And I think one of the things we have to challenge ourselves with our own biases and prejudices. We all have them. I'm not saying, so when people are like, I'm not racist, if you are benefiting from certain systems, are you or are you not? I don't know. You have to define that. But can you be prejudiced against another person who you don't understand or who has differences? Absolutely. Can you have biases or blind spots? Absolutely. I know I have them. But because of an exchange and sharing of experiences, we tend to understand and we become more expansive. I have the opportunity, even my dad, at 94, growing up in a little German community in Missouri. And as he said, my running buddies were all white. That was very unusual for him. And then graduating from high school and then quickly going off to Europe. So his exposure was very different. My lived experience was very different. I truly, and I know this is going to shock some people, but it's okay. I truly learned what it was like to be, and I'm going to say the stereotype of what Black in America is, when I moved to Atlanta.
I remember.
Because I wasn't around people who looked like me. I was just LaWanna, the military brat. That's how I identified myself. I didn't identify myself as a Black woman. If someone said who I would use military brat before I define myself any other way. But being here helped me to understand the struggle of my people in a way that had never been taught to me at home, because my parents had a very unique experience. Mm-hmm. Did it make me angry? Oh, yeah. Does it make me angry when I see ignorance abound on either side? Yes. Right. So I think it's really challenging ourselves to say, how much do I really want to know about another person? I tell I remember when I hear people say, oh, some of my best friends are Black. Well, I always ask them one question. When's the last time you had them over for dinner?
Yeah.
When's the last time you broke bread with them? Because if you haven't done that, they're not your friend. They're an acquaintance, they're a colleague. But until you break bread, until you bring them in that intimate space, I wouldn't call them a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. And I know that my dear late partner, Virginia, was brilliant, and she talked about systems terrifically. She just dug right into them, because she and I were both raised Christian fundamentalists, and it was just like, this is who we are, and we're white, and we don't have many Black people in our community at all. And she dug into the systems and says all a white person has to do to perpetuate racism is nothing. System does it. So, and all a straight person has to do to perpetuate homophobia and heterosexism is nothing, because the system does it. And all a male has to do is nothing to perpetuate sexism. And so it's incumbent upon us to speak up again, use our pie hole, because there'll be people in our family that say, "Hey, where were you when this was happening?" Right? Because we're not, none of us are safe until all of us are safe. And
Exactly.
so last I checked, everybody was born of a woman. So the next time, women are spoken of in derogatory terms, and of course, Mark Zuckerberg has basically said, yeah, you can talk about women as chattel on Facebook, no worries. Then we need to open our mouths and say, wait a minute, I'm a woman, or my best friend is a woman, or my wife is a woman, or guess what? My mom was a woman, and this is not acceptable. And when enough people start to say that, then it won't be cute. It won't be kind of automatic. We need to snap people into a pattern interrupt around these baked in, almost automatic biases that is not just about, okay, I'll feel better. No, this is at the root of a lot of the separation. So the wage parity fight, for versus, just individuals that do the same job that are similarly trained. That's one thing. And then when the statistics come out there for white women, not Black women, not Indigenous women, not Indian women, etc., not Asian women, and the aspect of the fact that, and this is an expansion for some of us, entire industries, nursing, healthcare, typically, house cleaners, people that clean motels and hotels, these whole industries are underpaid. Right? It's not just about the STEM people, male and female, equally trained, and one's not getting. So when women have said to me, and sometimes an older woman has said, I'm not inclined to be political. Here's the deal. Politics is life. And when we voice our opinions to our legislators, they will presumably construct legislation that's representative of the collection and the collective. And from those laws, the budget will be distributed. So if you find yourself undersaved and yet you're working 3 jobs, it's time to open up your mouth and say, I can't have this happen anymore for me and my family. And I think it's
Exactly.
incumbent upon men and women to be saying that loud and clear. Everybody get the app, 5 calls on your phone. 5 calls. It's simple as pie. Boom. You can select your issue. It gives you the number of your representatives and congresspeople, and you can let your voice be made known without having to stop your life, clear your desk, write a letter, write an email, pick up the phone. It's that easy. No one has an excuse. Oh, I don't know what to do. It's so easy. So let's step into our power, as you have done so eloquently. You have been interviewed everywhere. I want to just say, I want to invite our entire listening audience to look LaWanna up. Of course, I told you she was at the Kansas City Chiefs. She's been on Market Watch, NBC, CBS, USA Today. I probably should have said this at the top. Women's Prosperity Network, ABC, KMET, iHeartRadio, Medium, Blog Talk Radio, and a billion other places, because she is a trailblazer. She is a visionary, and she gets stuff done. She gets stuff done. And I was so impressed with one quote, that you'd helped a company achieve significant results, a 10% increase in market share within a year for a regional insurance firm. So leave our audience with a great story of someone you helped recently in terms of your business prowess, one of your business's prowesses.
I would say, and I'm going to use that particular example with that insurance company. This is right before the pandemic, and they were doing things the way they had always done them. And Debra, what I tell people now, especially small businesses, is if you're doing business today the way you did even 2-3 months ago, you're already on your way to being obsolete.
Yeah.
And so with this business, they were doing things the traditional way. They were wedded to their brick and mortar. And I said, well, have you ever thought about, a virtual platform? And they're like, no, our clients come to us. This is just how we do business. So after some back and forth, I convinced them to, hey, at least give it a try to systemize your processes in a way that will allow you to not be chained to this office building.
Exactly. Exactly.
So they did, they implemented it. And 4 months later, we had to shut down with COVID. And
Oh,
they didn't miss a beat. So you have to, not only as a business owner, not only think about the now and what you're doing, but again, this is where being plugged in and networking helps, because it allows you to forecast and to prepare. So that I always tell people, you don't want to be on the sidelines thinking, oh my gosh, there's a wave, or be overtaken by the wave, but at least learn how to ride the crest of the wave or be in front of the wave. And I choose as best as possible to be in front of the wave.
oh, absolutely. LaWanna is a 5-time international best-selling author. She has 3 TV shows. She's been recognized as the 2023 Next Gen Entrepreneur of the Year. LaWanna, where best can people touch base and contact you?
They can contact me on all things social media by my name, LaWanna Bradford. Or if you want to learn more about me, just go to my website, lawannabradford.com.
Well, LaWanna, our thanks to you. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, as your time is so valuable. And I am grateful for your life, your witness, your leadership, and the vision that you have. And I look forward to partnering in ways that we'll put together in order to expand the sisterhood, if you will, in ways that, are yet to be discovered. And I want everyone to know that I see you, I value you. And if this episode has sparked anything in you to follow that spark, to kindle and to flame, to kindle that ember, if you will, then I invite you to join our We Can Do It Women community. And the link is in the description below. And if you might be experiencing overwhelm around the political noise, pop onto my March 12th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Crush Overwhelm and Take Back Control webinar. The link is below. Until next time, I'm Debra Morrison, reminding you it's never too late to shine, and pay attention to your money and it will pay you back. Thanks, LaWanna.
Thanks so much, Deborah.
Good night.
Good night.